What is crack-a-lackin', my friends? I hope all is super. We're back here. I've been doing a lot of this now on TikTok and here, and it's a lot of fun because we get to determine who is in fact the asshole on a bunch of really interesting situations. Um, as some of you might know, this is my first time reading through any of these, so I'm just reading through and giving my opinion on what the heck is going on. I'm not a doctor or a therapist. I'm a coach. I'm a youth counselor. So I'm coming to it from that vantage point in posts such as this, where we're going to be talking about something like a diagnosis of autism. I'm not an expert in diagnosis, but like I'm coming to it with my experience from all those years as a youth worker and as a coach and like working with parents and like all of the stuff. So, without further ado, we're going to jump right into it. It's going to be a rip-roaring good time. If you have any questions, holler at me in the chat. Come on, Jonathan, let's get the party started. So, am I the asshole for asking my girlfriend if her brother has ever been tested for autism? I, a 26-year-old male, asked my girlfriend, a 24-year-old female, if her brother, 3-year-old male, has ever been tested for autism. After reading a post in another subreddit discussing issues that parents were describing their autistic child struggling with. Her grandparents have in passing mentioned her brother struggling with similar things, so I drew a parallel between what was described on the post and what was said by the grandparents. I didn't ask this question insensitively or with any kind of malice or judgment, but it was semi out of the blue. We were talking about our own baby, and she is pregnant, and I made the segue. She got offended and angry with me, insinuating that it was an asshole question to ask. Then told me that's basically asking someone like, does your sister contemplate blank? I think they're talking about suicide, because she struggles with depression, which I was dumbfounded at. She stormed off with the opinion that I basically called her brother the R word, which I most definitely was not. So am I an asshole here? My friends, I don't think you're at all the asshole. I think diagnosis, though, is a very, very tricky subject, especially when we're coming to at it like, oh, I read this subreddit, therefore your brother has a diagnosis of autism. That doesn't exist. But with that said, I think there's like, I'll give you kind of both sides of the coin when it comes to diagnosis, especially for young children. If you're a 3-year-old kid who gets a diagnosis for autism, let's just talk about Ontario and Canada here. You have access to an infinite amount of resources, really. And there's a lot of funding being put into early intervention, and 2 to 5 kind of fits into that role. Also, if you diagnose earlier, you can have a lot of really great treatment options, whereas a lot of families wait till sort of later to deal with it, and that becomes really problematic because one, there are services, but the wait lists are long. Two, the family often has to pay for it out of pocket without government support, even in a country like Canada. And three, the work you can actually get done is often a lot more behavioral and a lot less of an intervention. Um, on the other side, though, we don't know if there's like sort of cultural considerations here. Like, I come from like a pretty religious Jewish background. Talking about diagnosis and mental health is not something you do, really. It's kind of, it's getting better in the community, but it's like we're still a long way from having those conversations in a positive and productive way. So like going to somebody and saying, "Oh, your son might have a diagnosis of autism," might actually be like a hurtful or painful experience for some reason. Now, obviously there is a change, but getting the help you need at the right time is often critical. So I think the boyfriend is not an asshole for asking the question. I just think could have done it in a better way. I'm curious though, and part of the reason I brought up the cultural consideration, or like, is what the girlfriend said to the boyfriend back. Like, she told me that's basically asking something like, "Does your sister contemplate suicide because she struggles with depression?" That's an important question to ask. If somebody's struggling with depression and um, they're pretty like they're really quiet out of the norm, or they're really angry or irritable out of the norm, asking questions around somebody's risk is really important to determine their safety over time. Like, these are conversations we should be having. If I have a friend who tells me that they're struggling with depression, like one of the first things I do is sort of like ask them questions around what support structures do they have in place. Are they taking meds? Not because like meds cure depression, they don't necessarily, but having access to a lot of pills can be a dangerous thing. Um, these are important, critical conversations every single person should be having with everybody, even though sometimes it's tough. It's really, really important. So again, brother's not not brother. Boyfriend is not an asshole. Girlfriend's not an asshole. It sounds like there's like a contextual consideration, like culture, or the period of time or the country they live in, that's sort of creating the conflict here. But it's a super important conversation to have. It might not define much, but it's important to have to make sure, one, you can either get the resources you need, or you can work to intervene in a good way. Um, I'm going to keep this one open to answer for later. I love that conversation. Let's jump into this one. I'm not gonna lie. I know I usually like read these here for the first time. The second I read this title, I sort of jumped in. But we'll jump in together too. Am I the asshole for telling my kid the real reason me and her father split? So me and my ex-husband split about a year ago. He had been cheating for over half of the amount of the years we had been together, and I caught him in bed with a man and a woman. He was bisexual, and I divorced him soon after, despite all the pleads, and we went our separate ways. I've tried briefly to explain without outing him to my daughter, who's a 15-year-old female, why we are splitting. My intention was never to turn her away from her dad or make her hate him. We had originally stated that we would try to keep this as brief and shelter our daughter from this harsh time as much as possible. Lately, she had been very hateful and disrespectful towards me, and for the longest, I couldn't understand why, until she had gotten into a fit and told me that I ruined her life, and if I could just keep my legs closed, she could still have her family back together. This shocked me. At first I was pissed but then I was confused as to where she got this information from. I'd asked her before and she said she wasn't going to talk to me when I was the one who ruined her life. I called her father and asked him if he knew anything about it, and if he had told anyone, I was the one who fucked it up, but he dismissed everything and said he had no clue where she had gotten that information from. Now I was really confused and back to angry that she had said this to me, but I chose to wait until I knew what was going on. I tried talking to her multiple times, but she continued to shut me down and say that I ruined her life. Terrible mom, I chose sex above her family, and I'm the one to blame for her not having a mom and a daughter. I reached out to all my friends and family. It says friends and family and friends. Let's do that right. I reached out to all my family and friends to see if they had said anything that would lead to this as well. Now, I'm not proud of this, but I saw a message come up on my daughter's phone and I peeked at it. The message read, "I know, sweetie, just 3 more days," and it was from her dad. I opened the phone to see tons of messages of them two going back and forth with her telling him that she was sick of being here. She didn't want to be near me after I did that. She couldn't believe I would cheat. She's disgusted by me, and her father just agreed and consoled her. I'd asked her multiple times if he knew anything about her behavior. He said no. He put the blame on me for no reason. I called him once again after that. I messaged him about it when he didn't respond, and he got left unread. I sat my daughter down and told her that I know she's angry at me, and I tried to shelter from this and keep her dad far away from this as much as possible, but I won't be held accountable for actions that weren't mine. I left any and all questions that I couldn't say without his perspective out. She was shocked and apologized for her behavior to me. This wasn't some petty revenge to get back at him, but I can't have my relationship with hers ruined either. I'm now getting blasted by all of my family and his for doing this. So am I the asshole? So this is an interesting one. So this husband is exploring his sexuality, cheats on wife. Before the cheating really, happened for half the time they were married together. But it sounds like that's not at all the issue here. But I think it's important to bring that up. The real issue here is that they have a daughter who's 15, who's been living with the mom, who the dad has been basically saying that, oh, mom cheated, she's been terrible, she's the reason why our family's not together. Well, that's not at all the truth. And now this daughter for a long time is like hateful towards her mother, when the mother is really, really honestly and truly the victim here, especially in regards to this divorce and this action. So she then opens up the daughter's cell phone and sees there's this whole long message thread basically, of the blame. It's like you caught the dad red-handed here. She sits and has a conversation with her daughter, and the daughter and her are now on better terms, but the family on both sides is kind of really angry. In families with divorce, a lot of times people try to shelter their children, but things change, it seems, and one party moved on from the sheltering to sort of villainize the other partner, which is, again, not a super uncommon thing. It's actually very, very common. And it's a terrible thing because actually a lot of people become estranged from their children or vice versa as a result of these kind of actions. So I don't think mom is an asshole at all, but I will say, like, I'm hoping that it's not super common that she's just jumping into her daughter's cell phone. That's not a good thing to be doing, especially like a teenager. You have to have some level of trust. But in this case, I think it worked out that you caught that. So I think that's interesting. But I definitely think the husband is an asshole. I think there's a lack of communication, but I think there's also it's not that he can't communicate. He was very good at communicating with his daughter that it's the mom who cheated, but that's not at all the truth. So I think that's kind of evil. I think there's a lot of upward hill battle to sort of rebuild that relationship with the daughter should he choose. But I'm happy the mom and the daughter are kind of, it sounds like, going to be in a better place. Definitely not the asshole, but a very, very interesting one. We're going to do one more today. Let's do this one. Am I the asshole for having, let me take a sip of my coffee first. I'm getting, oh, it's hot. Delicious. Am I the asshole for buying a separate fridge for our garage and putting a lock onto it to keep my husband out? I, a 32-year-old female, am expecting my first child with my husband, Paul, who's 36. Fake names, of course. I'm currently 10 weeks pregnant, and my biggest pregnancy issue is fatigue and mainly cravings and hunger. No matter what I do, I cannot seem to stay full. I eat all day, but I manage to still lose 3 pounds. Problem is we don't always have what I want. So a few times a week I stop at the store on my way home from work and stock up on my favorite snacks. Pizza, pickles, fruit, popcorn, chicken noodle soup, string cheese. Hopefully Black Diamond, those were the best. I've been doing this since maybe about 5 weeks into my pregnancy, but every time I check the fridge, almost all my snacks are gone. I keep telling Paul to stop eating my food, and he says that it's not a big deal and I can just get more. But that involves me, not him, stopping at the store more, and me, again, not him spending more of my money. Last week I just snapped. I had bought my favorite ice cream, Neapolitan. I put it in the freezer, decided to take a nap before writing a paper. I'm currently getting my master's. I planned to have a bowl when I woke up and began working on it. When I woke up, I went to the freezer and saw it had been opened. Now I can't eat an entire quart of ice cream all by myself. So I wasn't mad that he had some until I saw what he did to it. My husband ate all of the strawberry side, left me with just the vanilla and the chocolate, and the strawberry is my favorite part. I got mad and started yelling at him. He told me it was unreasonable of me to bring food in the house and not expect him to have any of it. But I told him that wasn't what I expected. But he knew that was my favorite ice cream. My favorite part of it was all gone, and he's always eating my snacks. He just told me to run to the store and get some more. So I just went back upstairs because he wasn't listening. I opened my laptop and ordered a full-size fridge, paid for my personal savings account that he has never contributed to. The fridge cost $2,300. My husband and I don't mingle our accounts together, so he never saw that I bought it until 2 days ago when it was delivered to our house. He came home from work and saw it plugged into the garage. He asked why there were locks on it and how much it costs. I told him not to worry about how much it costs and there's locks on it to make sure he doesn't eat all of my snacks or my cravings. He said I can't control what he eats, and I told him not. I'm just controlling who eats my snacks, but the fridge in the house is open and he can have whatever he wants in that and the cabinets, but the fridge in the garage is for me only. I haven't had to go to the store all weekend, and all my food is locked up, but Paul is not speaking to me for 2 reasons. 1, for making a large purchase without talking to him, and 2, for turning food into a war. Am I the asshole? This is a good one, because, well, I mean, for those reasons, she's absolutely not the asshole at all. Like, he's eating his pregnant wife's food and then telling her to go to the store and pick it up. Like, come on, like, any partner should go and pick up the food. Like, if you finish off the food, go and eat it. Also, total red flag behavior. Who opens up Neapolitan and eats the one flavor? Just go and buy fucking strawberry ice cream if that's your thing, you know? Also, he should go and buy his own food. Like, or at least replenish what he's eating of hers. Like, if she's having cravings and she notes that it's, scroll back to the top here. My biggest pregnancy issue is fatigue and mainly craving. So it's not even that like she's like stoked about having all this food. It's a problem for her. And he's actively going and eating all of the food. Like what the hell? Totally not an asshole behavior on her part. She's just like, okay, I'm not sure I'm not sure if they spoke about it. It seems like they have, but that's a question I'd want to ask. But if she wants the relationship to work and survive her pregnancy in a healthy and safe way, she needs her food. So going and getting a fridge with a lock, it makes sense because honestly, he can't be trusted around her food. And he's, again, not replenishing it, not asking her, not communicating. Like, he's a red flag in of himself, especially, like, she's pregnant, man. Come on. And also, the other red flag I found about him was this second reason for making a large purchase without talking to him first. They don't have a joint account. She's not spending his money or vice versa. She's just like, he's eating my food, I'm gonna buy a fridge so I can have my own food. I mean, that's a natural consequence for eating another person's food. Like, there's no problem. It's her money. She can go and buy a fridge. Like, unless like they had agreed that they're going to use the money in their savings accounts to sort of buy something new or go on a trip together, maybe that's something to consider. Maybe that's a question we could ask around that. But in my opinion, my professional opinion, definitely not the asshole. Like, what did we do wrong here? Absolutely nothing. Thanks for hopping into the stream today. I'm doing this on TikTok now too, which is a lot of fun. I also post some of these that I made. That's up and live. If you book it in TikTok or send a contact form, it goes directly to me. So I'm happy to always chat and learn more and see if we can hook you up with either the right resource for you or if we're a right resource for you. Let's go get that important work done. Happy Monday, my friends. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on the flippity flop.